ever there was a story that rose not in triumph, but in the quiet, smoldering aftermath of ruin, carried not by joy, but by obligation, it is the tale of Aeneas, son of a fallen world, and reluctant architect of a future he would never fully see. Listen closely, and you will not hear the clash of glory alone. You will hear the crackle of burning homes, the echo of voices lost to time, and the steady, unyielding footsteps of a man who did not choose greatness, but bore it nonetheless. For this is not merely the story of a hero, it is the story of endurance. It begins, as many of the greatest stories do, at the end. Troy, once radiant, once defiant, once thought eternal, was dying. For years beyond counting, her walls had resisted the fury of the Greek assault. Generations had begun to believe that stone and destiny were one and the same, that what had stood so long could never fall. But history has a cruel habit. It does not always break what is strong. Sometimes it deceives it. And so came the horse. That silent, towering monument of cunning stood at the gates like an offering, like a mystery, like a question the Trojans answered too late. Some voices urged caution. Some hearts trembled with unease. But fate, once ripened, does not bend to hesitation. The gates opened, the horse entered, and Troy sealed her own doom. Night fell, and with it, the end of everything. From the hollow belly of the horse, the enemy emerged. Gates were thrown open. Armies flooded in. Fire took the streets. Steel found flesh. The city that had endured a decade of war fell in a single night of horror. And in that night, Aeneas dreamed. He saw Hector, not as the shining defender of Troy, but broken, bloodied, and burdened by defeat. No promise of victory came from him. No rallying cry, only truth. Troy was lost. The sacred must be carried. The living must flee. When Aeneas awoke, the dream became reality. The city screamed. Flames climbed the heavens. Death walked openly in the streets. And like any warrior worthy of song, his first instinct was not to run, but to fight. He armed himself. He charged into chaos. Around him, men fell not for victory, but for dignity. Temples became tombs. Homes became pyres. The night itself seemed to betray the living. Yet even in that storm of courage, a greater command found him. He was not meant to die that night. He was meant to remember it. And so, in one of the most powerful images ever carried through time, Aeneas turned from the battlefield, not in cowardice, but in obedience to something far heavier than pride. He returned home. He lifted his aged father onto his shoulders. He took his young son by the hand. He gathered the sacred relics of his people, and through fire, through ruin, through the collapse of everything he had ever known, he walked. Behind him followed his wife. Behind him burned his world, and ahead of him, nothing but uncertainty. But even duty does not shield the heart from loss. In the confusion, in the smoke, in the desperate flight, his wife vanished, gone, like so much else. And though reason urged him onward, grief drove him back. Into the burning city he ran once more, calling her name, searching through shadows and death. Until at last he found not her, but her spirit. She did not cling, she did not weep. She spoke with the calm of one already beyond pain. You must go, she told him. This loss too is part of what must be. Another land awaits you, another future, another life. And so he left, not as a victor, but as a man who had lost everything except responsibility. What followed was not a journey of glory, but of wandering. Across hostile seas and unfamiliar shores, Aeneas led the remnants of his people, refugees carrying memory like a wound. They were turned away, tested, scattered by storms, reminded again and again that destiny does not guarantee ease. Before a civilization is born, it must first endure being unwanted. Before a future is claimed, the past must be carried. At last, they came to Carthage, and there fate offered not rest, but temptation. Its name was Dido, a queen, a survivor, a builder of worlds from ruin, just as he was. She welcomed him not as a stranger, but as one who understood loss. And in that understanding, something fragile began to grow. Not ambition, not alliance, but love. For a fleeting moment, it seemed enough. A life together, a shared healing, a future not dictated by prophecy, but by choice. But destiny is not gentle, and it does not forget. The call came. He had not been spared to stay. He had not suffered to stop. Italy awaited. History awaited. And so, with a heart that knew the cost, Aeneas chose duty. He left. Her grief was not quiet. Her pain was not small. And when Dido died, she did not die alone. She left behind a curse that would echo across generations, shaping the fate of nations yet unborn. Such is the weight of human choices in the hands of those history remembers. Still, Aeneas went on. Through sorrow, through memory, through the growing understanding that every step forward required leaving something behind. He descended even into the realm of the dead, where past, present, and future blurred into a single terrible clarity. There he saw what had been lost and what was yet to come. He saw that his suffering was not meaningless. It was foundational. And when at last he reached the land promised to him, he found not peace, but war. Because no land worth claiming is ever empty of story. No future arrives without conflict. Turnus rose against him, not as a villain, but as a man defending his own place in the world. And so the final struggle was not between right and wrong, but between competing truths. And in that clash, youth was lost, hope was tested, and Aeneas himself changed. Grief hardened him, responsibility sharpened him, and destiny at last brought him face to face with his final trial. Turnus fell, defeated, pleading, human. For a moment, mercy stood on the edge of being chosen, but memory intervened, a token, a reminder, a life taken too soon. And in that instant, Aeneas chose not compassion, but justice shaped by grief. He struck, and the story ended, not with celebration, not with peace, but with a question. Because what is a civilization truly? Is it triumph, or is it the sum of every sacrifice made to bring it into being? Aeneas endures in memory not because he was flawless, but because he was steadfast, because he carried what others could not, because he walked forward when stopping would have been easier, because he chose duty when the heart demanded otherwise. He is not the hero who dazzles. He is the hero who persists. And perhaps that is why his story still speaks to those who have lost homes, to those burdened with responsibility, to those asked to build something greater than themselves at a cost they did not choose. If this journey through fire, love, loss, and destiny stirred something in you, if it carried you, even for a moment, into the weight and wonder of this ancient tale, then don't let it end here. Like this story, share it with someone who loves great epics, and leave a comment telling me which legend you want to hear brought to life next, because these stories endure only as long as we continue to tell them.